All right, welcome everybody. What's happening, Mark? Bare Naked Willie. I'm surprised to see you. How are you, brother?
I was there and I wasn't there and I wasn't there, Dave. I closed about 7,800 windows just to be here. So happy BS Friday Live, Dave Cooper.
Yeah, happy BS Friday Live to you. What a week we've been having. I mean, there's so much happening, not only on Dave Cooper Live and in Mark Bare Naked Willie's world, but around the world. So we've been having fun with it. But today we're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about clean energy. We're going to talk about Massachusetts energy. We got all kinds of fun stuff coming up, Mark. What do you think?
I think YouTube is popping, LinkedIn is popping, and a couple other channels are popping, Dave.
They are popping. They're popping all over the place. We got Twitch. So get your Twitches on. We got Twitter. Get your tweets on. We got LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. All of them. We are live. So make sure you hit that like and share. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch all the past episodes of BS Friday with my good friend Mark Bare Naked Willie and myself. All of them. And it's hundreds of them at this point. I can't believe it's hundreds of them, right? About 100. Close. We got to be close. It's over a year and a half almost of doing this. So it's a lot of weeks. 52,
Yeah,
60. We're in the 80s.
I think we're really close to 100, Dave.
Yeah, I knew it. Well, you're the one that's supposed to be able to repeat those forward and backwards without missing one, if you remember.
Yeah, we had Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike, Lisa, Mary, Christy,
yeah.
and Sarah, right?
Yeah. Pooh Bear, Baby Bear, Big Bear. We had them all on the show. All right, listen, we only got a little bit of time here today, buddy. So who are we going to have on, and how are we going about today's show?
You know what? Let's just grab someone and have them tell us about the show and do an intro for us. Would that be easier?
I think that would be easier. Maybe I could ask him to put his phone landscape so we get the big picture of where he's at. What do you think? What do you think?
You're the director, Dave. Tell them to change the photo. Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. We got him in. We got old Sean saying no more. Sean,
hey, gentlemen, how you doing?
Good, man. Come on, you're not in Canada. There's no way you're somewhere that's that warm you could be in short sleeves.
Yeah, buddy. There's the blue sky. There's the sun right there. It is it's a hot day here. A week ago we were, below zero, but this week we're wearing golf shirts, getting ready for things.
Awesome. So what are you getting ready for? I see Clay something in the background. I can't read the whole thing.
Yeah, so it's Clay Construction, just a new role that I've taken on. Dave, it's been a while. I got a bit of an update. I'm now the VP of operations for this local construction company here. And luckily enough, what's fun about this particular project is it's an on-site build, but these guys are using some off-site tools. So if you can see it in there, there's a telehandler where they are able to build the walls on the house. And then in the background there, you see the garage. So they built all the walls on the main floor, and then they trucked it over, all the beams, all the heavy stuff. So again, it's these baby steps that the industry is working towards so that we can get to more off-site construction. So we're on-site with a bit of off, and I'm always working on, air barriers and all the fun stuff. So we had an air barrier strategy discussion this morning about how we're going to make sure that this home is as efficient as it can, because here in BC, we do have codes are changing with our BC Energy Step Code. And so although we're a bit of a mover or shaker here in Canada, today, you guys have a mover and a shaker in the US. This individual, I am lucky to have met through the Passives Accelerator, where she's the host of our project showcase editions. And the muscle that she is moving in the state of Massachusetts and the area, because of the fact that they've adopted and know that the Passives principles work. And so she's been able to use policy and leverage and her smarts and her tenacity to get things moving. And it's just fantastic. She's part of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. And I think she's got a great story to share with you today. So I'm going to stop talking about how amazing she is, and I'll let her be the amazing person that she is. So Beverly Craig, welcome to the show. We love you and adore you, and can't wait to hear about what you're about to present today.
Yeah. Hey, Beverly. So you're the muscle. Can we get a flex? Let's get some flexing.
Yeah.
We got the muscle on the show. We don't need anybody else. We got Beverly and the muscle behind the energy efficiency, air barrier, passive house world. Sean, it's been nice knowing you. You just got replaced.
Thanks, Sean, for the intro. And thanks for the introduction. And thanks for inviting me today. I think building science, I'm so glad you guys are really into the weeds and into the detail. But today we're going to like back it up a little and think about how you can scale what it is you guys are doing on those job sites, on those projects, and have everybody join you. So it's not just you out there alone. So before we get started, I just want to quickly ask you in the chat to think about in your state or region, do you have an energy efficiency program that somehow incentivizes above code development? Just write it in like what your state or your region is and a yes or a no.
You know what? And I'll challenge them to one more comment after that one, Bev, is a hyperlink to that so that other communities and municipalities can copy and paste. And Greg, you go this here, Dave. What does he say?
Greg Ugaldi's here. Let me see what Mr. Greg Ugaldi. Well, he actually said, great Ukraine effort by DC Live. Yes, we have been doing a fundraiser and humanitarian outreach. Mark, it's been great. We set up with Operation Triage here in the United States and the Karate Federation in Poland. We actually have a direct line to donate 100% of all the funds that will go to the families in need all the way into Kyiv City. They're raising protective gear. They've sourced over 8,000 protective gear for the men, women, and children that are staying in put and trying to defend their country. So it's been quite awesome in the outreach and the I can't even explain it. I mean, it's been amazing. We have gotten more videos from people in Ukraine in the middle of the conflict thanking us for the effort and for what we've been doing. So there's a long way to go. It's a long shot, but if you want to donate, please go to operationtriage.org. Scroll down about halfway through. You'll find a place to donate. This is really a time of need for these people. So, Greg, thank you for bringing that up and letting me share it. We'll have more special shows coming up. So, all right, let's get into today. We're here about Beverly today, and we're gonna have some clean air going. So, Beverly, you got a presentation for us. You brought the big guns. You got an introduction from one of the best in the industry, Sean St. Omore, who I'm sure has his hands full training and doing product development with his new team. That's always a fun task, having to get everybody up to par. So why don't we kick it off first? Because we want to know everything about you, Bev. We want to know everything from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or Mark Willie's mom will call somebody in your family and we will bring them on the show and they're going to give us the real scoop. But guess what? You only got 1 minute and 39 seconds to do it. It used to be 2, but I'm talking too much. Go ahead. John, thank you for everything.
My birthday is January 1st, so I am a New Year's baby. And other than that, I have a lead background. So I'm fairly new to Passive House, actually. I work for a state agency. It is the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. And we are funded by a very small surcharge on everybody's electric bill in Massachusetts. So most people pay about 20 cents per month for us. So that's me. Yeah.
27 cents per month is what they pay for you? Come on.
Well, for my whole agency, 50 people. Offshore wind, that's us.
For offshore wind. All right. So let's hop into this. We have a presentation we need to get into. This presentation has been done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and hours long. So we're going to run through this presentation. We're going to keep it really smart because I know everybody out there is smart. But before we do that, make sure you do a couple claps in the LinkedIn there for Beverly to get her warmed up. Let's get excited here and let's hop into this presentation. What do you think, Mr. Mark?
I like Scott Farman's comments already. And Beverly, I've got my seatbelt on. I don't have a crash helmet because I know we're not going to get off the road. And I'm ready to go, not to the forward, not to the future, but to the present. So take it away. So glad to hear your voice today.
Love it. All right, here we go.
So let's see. How do I advance?
Scaling up passive multifamily in Massachusetts, policies, incentives, and educational offerings. Beverly Craig. There you go. We're moving.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about sort of how we have gone from one multifamily building, passive house in the state of Massachusetts to we have 116 that are potentially going to go for it. And just big context, I think this is true in most of the places you guys are at, is building sort of is about 40% of our greenhouse gases. But like if we take, let's assume for a second that somebody makes the grid 100% renewable, that the other folks I work with get offshore wind and get plenty of renewables on our grid. What are we left with in fossil fuels? And that is 27% of emissions right now are actually burning in buildings in Massachusetts. We expect between now and 2050 to have about 500,000 new buildings built in Massachusetts. And of course, we know how hard it is to retrofit existing buildings. So it makes it all the more important that when we build something new, that we build something that is great and that doesn't need to be retrofitted in the future. Because there's no way we're going to get to our state goals of getting to net zero emissions by 2050 if we build wrong the first time. So, okay, let's be honest. Passive house is a horrible, terrible name. And the only thing I've ever found that works with the real world out there is to just laugh at it, right? Because house in German means building. It does not mean single family house. And I personally love where passive house fits, and that is the best, and that is in the multifamily world. That's where we see the lowest incremental costs and the biggest savings. So history of passive house in Massachusetts, back in 2014, Hank Keating, who was the president of Passive House Mass, went ahead and built 16 townhouses between 2 and 9 units, all affordable, as stealth passive projects. So he modeled it correctly. He had the right air infiltration goal. He did basically everything but the performance or the construction verification that you would get in passive house. And what happened? He got townhouses that are 78% less heating energy than 3 very similar ones that were on the other side of the property that were built just a couple years before. So in Massachusetts, we had that behind us, and we saw what was happening in Pennsylvania, where they were giving extra points for affordable housing to build to the passive house standard. And we tried to do similar things here in Massachusetts, but we got a lot of skepticism about it being way too expensive for us. You know, Massachusetts is an expensive place to build to begin with. And especially in the affordable housing world, they were like, are you kidding me? Like if it's going to be 10% more, 15% more, that means way less units that we can build. But we were seeing what was happening in other states. And then we heard a lot of people in New York saying, it's not that expensive. And this is the best way to build. And so we as an agency said, well, what can we do to try and clear this up and try and better quantify how much it really does cost? And so we basically provided up to $4,000 per unit for 8 affordable housing, low-income projects to upgrade to passive house and to build them that way. So 5 of those right now are occupied and 3 are under construction. And what are we finding? The costs are not too bad. We definitely are on track for being under 3%. They range everything from 1% to 4.3%. I love the different looks here. Like we've got really small 30 units. We've got 135 units. We've got some that like Harbor Village. I walked along for its ribbon cutting and actually walked past the place because it fits so well into the Gloucester Main Street. And we have like very traditional suburban affordable housing like in Hanson Village and North Commons. So what are we seeing for the biggest incremental costs in those projects? By and large, the biggest cost across all 8, they're either the first or second cost, is the upgrade to better ventilation. That makes a lot of sense, right? Like code for us in Massachusetts, you only have to have 1 supply, but passive house, you got to bring it to every room, right? Every bedroom. And windows and doors, definitely. But we are seeing that a lot of the heating and cooling systems are much smaller. You save some money there. And the window premium is really coming down. And we're even finding some tricks where in 2 cases, the GCs aren't even showing it as an ad when they upgraded. So like if you do this kind of thing in another state, what I will say is make sure that you're really on top of what people put in for incremental costs. You know, it really matters what the baseline is that they're comparing to. And in this case, we were trying to prove to our low-income housing tax credit folks that it wasn't going to be super expensive. If you're doing this in another state, in another part of the country, in another country, base code might be different. We are pretty lucky in Massachusetts that it's pretty high. And we've learned a lot of things across the board. First, that, wow, it sure helps if your architect has passive house training, because they are a lot better at doing this at low cost. Also, you know, let's be real. The first time you do this, it's hard, but it sure gets a lot easier after you do the first time. And definitely the more complicated your roof lines are, the more expensive it's going to be. We've definitely found that. And if you're going to go for an incentive program, make sure that people don't get scared away by the pass fail by giving them a soft landing. So after my agency did this like pilot project, 9 months later, the big money in the state, which is the Mass Save program, that's the utility funded efficiency program. And like when I was asking, does your new construction program, do you have a new construction program in your state or region that does incentivize above code? These are the people that do that in Massachusetts. And they took a lot of the same sort of style of our incentive with multiple parts that you get along the way so that it is a soft landing if you don't make it. But I really love how it turned out. It's been super successful in Massachusetts. And so what they've done is they've given these pre-construction incentives. So basically $5,000 when you're doing a passive house feasibility, it fits really nice into a green charrette. It's like a deep dive right on the energy portion of your green charrette. Then they're also paying for 75% of the costs, up to $20,000 of passive house modeling. And all of you who know passive house know that that's super useful. Even if they decide not to go passive, that architect just sure learned a lot about air infiltration and thermal bridges that they probably wouldn't usually think about. And then they provide $3,000 at certification. So $500 of that's at pre-certification, and the rest is when it's actually certified. And like I said, it's been, you know, we used to have only one multifamily in the state, and we now have 116 buildings that have applied to that incentive. And that's really a lot of units, potentially 6,500. Now, all of them probably won't actually pull the trigger on passive house, but 70 are serious enough that they actually went to the energy modeling stage. And there's also all this educational work that Mass Save's been doing at the same time. So they've been paying for half the costs of people to get certification. They've been running all these lunch and learns for big architecture and owners and at conferences. And, you know, even just the people who've actually gotten accredited, we're already up to 107. So I guess my point in telling you all this is like, think about how this could be done in your state or region. Who is it that provides some kind of incentive for new construction? A lot of US states do have this public benefit charge that goes towards encouraging energy efficiency. There should be a new construction program, and telling them this story is really helpful. So to me, the issue of it's not that expensive is only half the reason, right? You'd be interested in multifamily passive. The other half is, do you really get the energy savings that that standard promises? And in Massachusetts, if you modeled a passive house multifamily building compared to what our stretch code is, you'd see somewhere between 40% and 60% lower energy for every square foot. And now that we have energy disclosure ordinances in a bunch of cities, we can actually pull the data on what they're actually consuming every year and compare it. So in this case, this was the first passive house multifamily built in Massachusetts, the distillery. It's 28 units. The picture's up on the right there. But over on the left in green is what we've pulled from energy disclosure ordinance. The energy use for every square foot is 20.8. And when you look at the lead buildings in purple and the code buildings in blue, we're talking about 63% lower than the median. So that's great, right? Like it's on the better end of what you'd expect from the modeling. We have similar confirmation in Philadelphia. They also have an energy disclosure ordinance. And this is just actually pulling the low-income housing tax credits. That's why there's not more of these bars. But similar story, right? 57% less energy per square foot than the median code built that was affordable that triggered this reporting requirement. And look how close the green ones, the 3 passive house buildings are clustered. Look how that is not true in the lead in the code, right? So I think we all know without a standard, you can build a good building, but does a standard guarantee a good building? Really only in the passive house. And then this is like the ultimate in proving the case, right? This is basically the same building built 6 or 7 years apart, same owner, affordable housing, and same number of units. One was built to lead, one was built to passive house, and 49% less. So I think similar story here. And so I will say Massachusetts, the reason we see this groundswell in interest isn't just the incentive. There's a bunch of other things helping to push people in that way. One of those tools, and you probably have this in your community, is an environmental impact statement that has to be done with larger projects. So we are fortunate in that our state in Massachusetts on larger projects does have the ability to look at those environmental impact statements. And that agency has been really, really, really good at saying, hey, if you want to meet all the requirements we have, you should go passive. And so they have that like early in their minds when they start thinking. Then we have successfully convinced our low-income housing tax credit people to give higher priority to passive house projects. So you, like in Pennsylvania, where we first heard about this, you get better points and you might get picked faster if you go with a passive house design. And then I will say all that education that I was talking about, if you go to Passive House Mass's website, there are some amazing recordings that are out there. Like I said, Mass Save programs paid for a lot of these. They're free, they're on demand. There is no reason if you are in a similar climate zone that you shouldn't look at some of this stuff. I mean, I think all of us know Passive House Accelerator has wonderful webinars, but these are great too. You can sort by builder, multifamily, single family, all kinds of different things. And here are a couple that I would say in Massachusetts, I would say are not to miss. If you're going to look at a couple of webinars on the Passive House Mass website, the earlier ones, which were Stephen Winters and very focused on builders, and then these ones were really good too. And that is how I'm going to wrap it up. I just like to challenge all of you to think about how can you take your work and encourage more people to do it. It is people like Tim McDonald and David Salomon who really made the policy take off in Pennsylvania. And we need people like that across the country and across Canada and across the world. So just challenge you to go for it. It's worth your time.
Well, thank you for the presentation. First of all, I think that was the most, you get the award for the most efficient presentation that we have had on the show, period.
Yep.
That was awesome. There's a lot of information there. There was a lot to unpack. Mark, why don't you kick it off?
Well, the numbers were easy to view, right? And there was 70 projects or buildings rather that might be going on with this. So the funny thing I thought of that popped in my head when I saw that was Dave has less commuting now, Bev, because he can just go to 70 projects in Boston. And
that's right.
Those are exemplary to take off. But the fact that there was buy-in from the area to put in that modeling number and to put in the incentive on I believe the window and some other incremental things, smaller dollars on some and larger on others. But that's about what it needed for someone to say, I will model, and then I have a better chance of getting to my results, right?
Yeah, and actually, so doing that upfront feasibility study and the modeling, that kind of incentive upfront, which I don't think you usually see very often in energy efficiency programs. Usually they hold it to the very, very end, right? Connecticut has taken that approach too in Eversource territory, so they basically copied it. I hear there's some talk in Vermont with ARPA money for affordable housing requiring passive house, and it's based on this data for those projects. So we'll see. I'm hoping there's a ripple effect for sure.
Well, that's a close domino, Connecticut and Vermont, right? But there's other states around. You already mentioned the Philly, and those folks have come on here and used a megaphone the same way. I think it's exciting because maybe 8 years ago we thought that was going to happen tomorrow, but it's happening today.
It is happening today. You know, it's funny though, if we could just get the states to all talk with each other. This is the thing, right? Because you got Massachusetts and Connecticut, but then you have this tiny little state, Rhode Island, between the two. And trying to get them all to play nice together isn't always that easy, and to share the same codes. You know, like I'll give you an example. Rhode Island, because I used to be a builder in Connecticut, would adopt and Rhode Island at the same time because we lived on the border. They have two different codes they follow. They adopt the codes at different times, and it makes it difficult. So to take something, Bev, like you guys are working on, and get Connecticut, I say if you get Connecticut, then you guys put the passive house squeeze, the muscle, and you just squeeze it out of Rhode Island to get their crap together if they're not already doing it, and there you have it. You got the muscle back. I'm excited.
The short side of that too is, so you mentioned the different code variations in these connected states, but voluntarily you could go beyond so that you're getting the savings. Even if the city, state, municipality, town, county is on this direction, you could just say, oh, you guys want to see what 2025 looks like? Yeah, I'm doing it in 2022.
Well, listen, guess who lives in Connecticut, Mark? He's on the show right now.
I'm not going to guess.
I'll give you a hint. It's at the bottom of your screen.
Oh, the man himself, Mr. Craig Ugaldi. Well, Greg, we'll bring cupcakes, we'll bring lemonade, and we'll bring ice cream cones, and we'll serve up the wonderful passive house in Connecticut.
That's right. Well, he said you guys got to have a meeting with Stephen Winters, and they were discussing this with Eversource, which is a main energy supplier up in the New England states. So if you don't know Greg, Bev, he was last year the immediate past chairman of the National Association of Home Builder. The year before that, he was the chair. But now he's back into the world with the rest of us, but he's still way up there in the political game. This is a guy that updates the Secretary of Housing and the president for the National Association of Home Builders. And he's become a great friend of the show, as well as personally. He's been a big supporter, and Mark and I are always grateful when he shows up. He shows up a lot too, which is great.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome. We need more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Scott Farbman is saying ComEd has something too.
Yeah, he wrote ComEd has a new passive house incentive program for affordable housing projects that offers $350,000. I'd like to learn more about that. That's cool.
Wow.
That's very cool.
Scott usually knows things really soon. The other thing that we know about Scott is he shares it right away. And that's just what you're doing today, Beverly. These are the things I like when we see it, and all of a sudden it gets danced around these other areas, and it's contagious. That's the sort of thing that we need to pass the spark about. Love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Scott says, can we get a round of applause for decarbonization? All right. Perfect. All right. So
Scott, to that, I would say, just like today, what is it? March forward, right? From March 4th.
March forward. Yeah. It's March forward today. Definitely. All right. So, Mr. Wood, we have one more comment from Scott Farman here. If anybody else has any comments or questions, please put a Q before it and go ahead, put it out there. So let's put up this comment from Scott Farman here, Mark. Beverly, it depends on building typology. ComEd has some efficiency incentive programs, but for single family homes, you can only get it if you are electric and meet some specific benchmarks, but it's only $2,000. What a rip.
Yeah. in Massachusetts, our single family incentive is not great yet.
Yeah.
I think there's some people working to try and change that right now. So hopefully there'll be something in another year or two to look at. And I think that's a problem in general. Like so many of the incentive programs I see don't change anybody's mind. And sometimes it's
Right.
because it's such a hassle to go through the process for not very much money or there's too much uncertainty. And like I said, they're almost always at the very end as opposed to at the beginning when you can change minds, right? So
Yeah.
if there's
You
a
know-
lesson, I think it's like try to invest in the early stuff instead of the late stuff.
Yeah,
I
I
would
agree
like
with
to
that.
see more incentives, but if you take it that far and then for $2,000 you don't go a certain direction, how about just buy a different appliance package? And that $2,000 is a moot point. This is this these things are added things for the I think the bell and whistle type things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if and when the power goes out, and if and when there's poor air quality outside, now you're not stressed. Now you're not worried. You have more days in which your building can operate, and you add a small amount of renewables because you need less, and you're a happy camper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, you're mentioning the, being able to shelter in place like in a power outage. And I think that's like a lot of times, I think almost some of the other harder to quantify things are a better sales point, at least for the multifamily space. So like WBUR had a reporter out on our first project that we incentivized, Cambridge Finch, and they had just put the windows in. And he was walking up the stairs, and it's a radio show, right? So like he's got his big microphone, he likes all the hammers and all the construction noise and everything. And he walks into this room where the windows just went, and he's like, it's so quiet. And he couldn't hear the street noise anymore. And like that's what like hit him dead, right? Or like, I don't know, I lived in a lot of multifamily in my life, and I hated smelling my neighbors cooking, right? Like, or whatever they were doing, right? And like having compartmentalization is like a really big like that's a sales point. And now after COVID, like that incremental cost, one of the biggest ones was around ventilation upgrade. Well, heck,
Right.
shouldn't all of our new buildings have much better ventilation didn't we learn anything, right? I mean, it just makes it a lot easier to sell, I think, overall, that is the case, right?
Yeah, well, it is the case. Marker, I don't know if you're frozen or not. Does he look frozen on your end, Beverly? He looks frozen
No,
on
he
my
looks
end. Nope,
fine.
there he's moving. Okay, he's moving.
Oh, now he's
just
frozen.
now he's frozen. No, he was just intently listening. I love it. I'm sitting there going, "Is Mark frozen? Mark." Smelling people's cooking, yes, is one thing, but again, fresh air is important. And where does that fresh air come from? And you don't want it coming from your neighbor's apartment or your neighbor's building, right? You want fresh air coming from where fresh air comes from, outside, the trees, everything else. So I love that. Perfect. All right, Mark, how do you want to wrap her up here today, my friend? Can you hear him? I can't hear him either.
I can hear him. It's fun to watch him, though.
It is. I'm saying.
Hello,
I'm like,
is this thing on? Is
Yeah.
this thing on? Is it working?
It's working.
So, sorry about that. I did touch the mute on the mic itself. Come on, Dave. So, what I really enjoyed among many things that you laid out today, Beverly, and the example that it gives, is also when you delivered it, there was no acronyms included. There was no hard reachable targets. It was just an application for beautiful, awesome buildings in your area that are more steady on the performance, very predictable, which is a necessity for solar ready and renewable ready. So I think for the next 100 episodes, maybe if you come on and keep talking about this, we're going to get there together. It's beautiful, and I thank you for being here today. And I invite everyone to see what they're doing in Mass and replicate.
Absolutely. And why don't we bring Sean back on to wrap it off here? I see him waiting there. It looks like maybe he's in the park now. I don't know. Does this guy work? He gets paid for doing this stuff, man. I'm like, it's like, if he we're going to bring you back on, Sean, but you got to tell us how we get paid to be you.
I think he works 80 hours a week. That's how he's everywhere.
Look, he's in the park now. He flies around on helicopters. He's in the park. He's on islands. I don't know if this guy really works, man. He just educates. What's up?
Well, I'm off to the next job site, so I figured I'd stop by and show a little bit of how beautiful Vancouver is today. Because when we talk about meeting people, I mean, it's been amazing that we've been able to connect virtually over the last 2 years. I've met all of you through the virtual thing, and I actually look forward to meeting Bev in person at the Passive House Conference in Boston, which is coming up. So it looks like I've got to get on a train and pick up Mark and Dave. Hopefully, maybe you can pick up us too, and we can all get there and not only hear what Bev and the rest of Massachusetts has to say about their projects, but there's a lot of exciting stuff of how we're growing it. And the one thing too about Passive House is you might not like the name, but sure, you love the benefits. And the fact that we can talk about comfort and health and energy efficiency. And yes, it's a 2% or 3% premium in your construction cost. You do get that back from energy savings. So at the end of the month, you're going to be looking a lot better. But I should probably let you all go because I can tell that the geese are getting louder than me. So from Vancouver, everybody, enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend. And Bev, see you on Wednesday. And everyone else, keep doing great stuff.
All right. Appreciate you, Sean. Take care, buddy. All right. Sean Santamore from Vancouver, Canada. You never know where he's going to pop up, man. He's at one place, he drives somewhere and comes in at another place. So that's what's fun about the show. It's all about, sharing what we can't see. But now that COVID restrictions have lifted and people are traveling and we can go places, that is amazing and awesome. So appreciate you, Sean. All right, Beverly and everybody else out there. That's a wrap for the show. But please go to operationtriage.org and donate to the Ukraine cause. We are doing a humanitarian mission. We have raised thousands and thousands of dollars already, and we're going to keep raising. And you might be surprised, some of the fundraisers we coming up next week, we might have some real heavy hitters in the world coming on our show to help us celebrate what we're doing forward. And guess what? Some of it might be about healthier buildings. We don't know. We're working on it. Bev, don't go anywhere. Thank you for joining us. Mark, you're always amazing. Appreciate you. And everybody else out there, please go to that YouTube channel. Please subscribe. If you're not, you're wrong. If you're not following Mark Willie, you're wrong. And if you're not following Bev over here, Bev, it takes practice to get this because it's the opposite direction. Yeah. So, it takes not getting Bev over here. You better be following what Bev's doing as well. And definitely go to the Passive House conference in Boston and check them out and everything they have going on. All right, Mark, that's a wrap, man. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Everybody else, thanks so much. Bye now.